what I've got on the screen now. It's entitled CKenergy Expense Margin Geo Calculator. Real dumb name, I know. I haven't had time to come up with a sexier name for it. So if you think of one, feel free to throw it my way. All right, what I've done here, this basically gives us an idea, really, just from a retrofit situation. It can also do new construction as well, but if you go in, let's say a customer's got an old air conditioning system, a 10 SEER, 80% gas furnace, that air conditioner is about a 5.2 kW at 3.5 tons, 5.2 kW demand for its runtime. Or you may be replacing a 12 SEER, or you may be replacing a 14 SEER. Just for purposes today, I'm going to use the 12 SEER right in the middle. So I'm going to go over here and put the 4.4 kW that is representative of that 12 SEER 3.5 ton system, what its draw is. And our cost of demand is about $10.80. So I put that in demand slot. Okay, we build in a fee to the homeowner that's receiving the loop, so that over 30 years, it's likely that they will reimburse the cost of that loop to the cooperative through the loop rate, the fee that's built into the customer charge. So I'm going to put $25 in there.
Hey, Boyd, let me interrupt you real quick. Your script is not active. So if you could, we've got the one that's on your presentation that shows the overview, but it's not your active.
Okay, good. That reminds me, I forgot that one step. I'm sorry, Darren. Did that do it?
Yes, sir, that did it. Thank you.
Okay, my bad, guys. Okay, so back up to the top, I put in 4.4 kW in this cell, $10.80 cost of demand in that cell, and a $25 per month loop fee for the homeowner in that cell. Now, a 4-ton loop cost for us is about $10,000. So I'm going to put in $10,000 for that 4-ton loop. Okay, I'm just going to use an increased annual kilowatt hour sales for geo and electric water heater change. I'm going to say an extra 2,500 kilowatt hours. Okay. Our kilowatt hour margin is, let's say it's 3 cents per kilowatt hour. Now, our cooperative sells roughly 3.5 billion kilowatt hours in a 60-month period. So that is how the time period that we use to recover our entire investment for that $10,000 loop. All right, and I'll explain how we do that here in just a second. But I'm going to put in 3.5 billion. I think that's 3.5 billion. Okay, and let's say that I've got $6 million worth of loops at any one time that's being financed. So there's $6 million. Okay, and I'll reserve the spot. Additional incentive dollars is like if you want to put in extra rebate money towards the geo installation, you can put it, account for it in that slot to see what your impact is. Now, what we decided, we needed a way, rather than having the invested dollar of the co-op hanging out there for 30 years before it fully returns from that loop fee. Since what we're doing at certain homes impacts the entire customer base of the cooperative, and it positively impacts them by reducing wholesale cost of power, why isn't it also fair for everyone to purchase the asset by which they save money? And so that's how we justified it, and we put together a rider, and that is why we're talking about how many kilowatt hours we sell over 60 months. We are dividing the entire loop investment, and let's say right now we've got $6 million invested into that 3.5 billion kilowatt hours. And over here on the far right, that shows the rider that we have to add per kilowatt hour to pay for that entirely over 60 months. It's 1.7 mils. For those of you who understand rates from a utility perspective, you know that 1.7 mils is a small enough factor that it really doesn't show. It takes a lot of kilowatt hours for somebody to see any cost come. So by increasing our, with a rider, by increasing our charges each month to each kilowatt hour by 1.7 mils over 60 months, we have now, on behalf of our membership, purchased $6 million worth of money-making loop forever. I'll let that sink into you. Forever. That is the answer, the key to the future health and well-being financially of your cooperative. It will go on from now on earning money for the cooperative, which is owned by the members. Now down below, you see that in this first column, I've used one unit. At the end of that, well, it's an annual margin increase of $533. That's because of the reduced wholesale cost of power through demand reduction. That's because of increased kilowatt hour sales. And that's because of that little loop fee that we built in. The $533 worth of margin increase by putting in a geo and taking out an 80% gas furnace and a 12-SEER air conditioner. Over 30 years, that's $15,998 of margins from that one heat pump change. Now, if you go up to 500, that's $9 million over 30 years. If you go to 1,000, that's 18 million. If you get up lucky enough to put in 2,500 of them, that's $45.6 million of positive impact to your cooperative during that 30-year period of time. Now, another way to look at that is $45.6 million worth of rate increases you would have had to pass on had you not done this program. And that's the most impactful of all. This is a way for us today to cover and pay for the expenses of expansion with today's customers, rather than putting those costs off to be absorbed by the future customers. And that's what all utilities have done forever. Plant investment gets financed for years and years and years and years. So you expand 10 miles of line today, the customer 25 years from now is still paying for that. And they didn't have anything to do with it. So with this method, it covers everything in 5 years and we're done. And so every 60th month, or every single month, 1 month of investment rolls off when another month rolls in, and so forth and so on from now on. And that is where we're at with CKenergy. We've been doing it long enough now. We're rolling off a month and rolling on a month. And so the rider does not get larger once you reach that point. Okay, move on. Got to reshare this thing, make sure. Okay, hopefully that changed the screen back to our presentation. So where are we after 8 years? We currently own 9 points. What's that?
You've got your note slide shown there if you want to maximize it. You've got your note slide shown.
Okay. There we go. How are we there?
Perfect.
Okay. All right. I don't know everything. I'm a techno dummy when it comes to this stuff, so I apologize. All right. We own $9.7 million worth of loops here at CKenergy. That equals what we've got so far. We've got 4,117 tons of geo installed residentially, 511 tons installed commercially, for a total of 1,323 3.5 ton systems. I just divided it all. And so it's the equivalent of having 1,323 3.5 ton systems in 8 years. So we're pretty proud of that. This is a breakdown of the commercial applications that we've had. One of the first things we did is changed our entire office over, renovated it to geothermal. And guys, I'm going to tell you another thing straight out. You have to walk the talk. If you're cooperative or you're investor-owned utility, or even you individually are not using geothermal, how can you possibly hope to have the credibility to promote it? And I mean that sincerely. I'm going to tell you what I did one year. I bought a new home in Cherokee, Oklahoma. It was an old house, had gas heat and gas hot water. And before I ever moved into it, I went up there at night and I was ripping the gas lines and gas pipes out of the house and chunking them out the basement window. And of course, this being a small, nosy town, I had all kinds of people stop by to ask me what in the world I was doing taking out the gas in my house. And I told them I was going geothermal. And they just couldn't believe it. They wanted to know why. And I said, well, because I promote geothermal. How can you ever trust me if I tell you in my house I've got a gas heater? So now I knew going into it that my costs were still going to be cheaper than my neighbor's gas, but I had to prove it in order to do it. That's something else. Your utility, if you want to be successful, you have to get your staff and your other employees to bite the bullet and go geothermal. Certainly put it in your office buildings. Anyway, I'll quit rambling. We've got 52 tons in one school. We've got 48 tons in another. We just put in 168 tons in a Bible Academy, and they're yet to fire the thing up, but it's just about ready to run. But anyway, as you can see, we've got quite a few that we've installed on our little co-op. 4,628 total tons. 0.65 kW per ton demand reduction. That's 3.08 megawatts that we've reduced at peak. That is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars every single year. And we've significantly reduced our carbon footprint to the folks that are concerned about carbon footprints. So it answers every single question that's out there. So that kind of brings us back to what we originally started with, which was some slides on solar panels sitting on your roof or out in your yard. Loop ownership is really the capturing of the Earth's solar energy for margins. And those margins are tremendous from a utility standpoint. At the same time, they are tremendous savings for the homeowner. Solar and wind applications, especially on a residential basis, they're not fixing a problem at all. All they're doing is providing someone a place to sink a whole lot of money to buy the right to pay someone else for their energy other than their utility company. It does not save money. It only changes who you pay it to. It doesn't add insulation to your attic. It doesn't improve the efficiency of your heating and cooling. It doesn't improve the infiltration around your windows and things like that, like home improvements do. And it just changes who you're paying. So if you have to ask yourself the question, which is the better user of solar energy? Is it geothermal, HVAC, or solar panels? Which is the better tool for the long-term health of your utility? Better load factor and reduced wholesale cost, or giving up load factor and sales to a competitor? Which is the better tool? Which would you rather have weighing down your roof? Shingles or tiles, or shingles, tiles, solar panels, and risk? And that's where we're at. And that's kind of a brief synopsis of our program at CKenergy, and it's been very, very successful for us. There's a couple of others around the country that have done some similar things, but I'm yet to find one that goes quite as deep as ours. I know we've got another participant on here I failed to mention earlier, a good friend, Paul Boney. He was a part of Delta Montrose out in Colorado that was one of the first ones to really get really active in the cooperative geothermal applications. So, but there's not very many of us, and there needs to be a whole lot more. And I'm willing to help any of you figure out how to do that if you need me. But with that, I'm done, Darren. So if you want to ask some questions or have me answer some questions, I'm happy to do so.
Thank you so much, Boyd. Fantastic job, and always excited to hear you present your success story. Are there any questions that we have out there, Sally, that anybody's chatted, or we can open it up for questions at this time for anybody?
There's nothing in the chat yet, but it's open.
All right. Chime in, anybody, if you've got any questions for Boyd.
Who sizes the loop?
Most of the time it's our, well, all the time it's either our HVAC contractor or the drilling contractor, which we pay very close attention to and stay on top of.
Okay. Boyd, Sandra Blackburn's wanting to know, was it difficult to convince your board to invest in this program?
No, that's one thing I'm really blessed with here at CKenergy is an excellent board of directors and a CEO that that really get it. I think it also helped. I don't want this to sound cocky or anything, but it also helps to have the seller of the program know what he's talking about. And I have been involved in actual rate making now, cost of service and rate making for quite a few years. And so I know how to present it in a way that has a financial reality to it. A lot of times it's just presented with emotion and this is what I want to do, but I can't really tell you exactly how it's going to work. Most of these board members, they're willing to take a chance if they can see some financial representation that makes sense, where they can actually see how it can work.
Okay, our next question is, who maintains the loop?
Great question. The ones that we own, we do. And so far, out of all the loops that we've drilled, we've had to have 3 repairs done, and 2 of them our own men cut. So we, as a matter of fact, the one of the very first ones we did got the loop and the header all hooked up to this new house, and the very next day, our underground guys went out to connect the electric service and cut right through the header. So we learned very quickly that up front that we needed to put together a better coordinated effort on depth of installation and well fields, maps and things like that. But anyway, long answer to your question, but we do.
All right, next up is the summary that 5 years investment yields internally funded ongoing program.
Yes.
Have you had any conversations with TriState Power?
Out of Denver?
It doesn't say.
Okay. No, nobody from there has ever contacted me that I'm aware of.
Okay. What's the process for starting a new project? Do you reach out to customers, or do they know about the program and apply somehow?
No, the ones that know about it, our very best advertisers are the heating and air conditioning guys that put the systems in. they are the ones that get the call when a customer's having a problem with their existing unit, or they're building a house. They're all out there lining up contractors, and we've got a pretty significant list of contractors who are available that have jumped through a few hoops to get on our approved list. And so normally the contractor, we've done so many of them now, they just take it from start to finish. They know the entire process, and we don't question it, and they don't try to get to us either, because they know that we'll take them off the list immediately if they try to abuse it. And we've had excellent luck with our contractors as well as our loop drillers.
All right. Do you require a modeled calculation for consumption and comparison of existing system for each system?
We require the equivalent of a manual J load calculation to justify the sizing of the heating and cooling system. We do not require a certain level of consumption be present in order for us to make the investment, because ultimately most homes are they change hands, and many times over the years, and you may have a couple living in a house that 2 years from now has a family of 5 in it. So even if your initial investment takes a little bit longer to recover, you may actually find yourself in a position where you're recovering it even quicker than you had anticipated, or vice versa. So no, we don't put any stipulations like that. We do require justification on the size.
Okay. Is there any special loop fluid used, or do you use the water available on site?
We typically always use the water available on site with the glycol additive or whatever means of antifreeze that that particular driller is using. Most of them use the glycol. There have been occasions where there hasn't been water available, so they've had to truck it in, and usually the guys that truck it in either fill it up at their own yard or at one of the city's quick fill locations.
Has the co-op whitelisted approved loop installs / unit installers?
Yes, we have a now I don't know what the asker's definition of whitelist is, but we do have a list of approved installers and drillers, and we stick with that. We make the decision on the driller since we own the loop, so that's fair for us to make that decision. And also we know from experience that the loop is critical to all applications. If it's put in right, it's most likely going to always work right.
Was the rider an issue because of the perception of member cross subsidy?
No, because we, right or wrong, we never really advertised exactly what all it's used for. Our rider has 2 components to it, one of which we don't use, but we could. It was written for an entirely different purpose. It was written as a margin stabilization factor, but we turned it into, it's still called our margin stabilization factor, but we turned it into a recovery mechanism for the investment in our load management programs. And so as long as we don't abuse it, it's pretty easy to show every month, like I said, as it rolls off and new investment rolls on. The other thing that's occurring at the same time is our power cost adjustment is going down because our average wholesale cost of power is going down. So we can, it's been going long enough that it's actually now a negative overall impact. We get more of a positive impact on reduction of wholesale cost of power than we do adding it back to the kilowatt hours. I've often called it magic money. Now, during the first 60 months of the program, it was not magic. It was a rate increase slowly but surely as the 60 months rolled on. But now that it's rolling out, it's no longer a rate increase. Now it is a monthly rate improvement.
Next, we have, do you monitor the loops with an energy meter or BTU meter? If so, how do you collect the data and make sure the loop isn't trending too hot or cold over time?
We do not. And that's kind of one of those things where the only way we know if the loop is getting hot or not is service issues that might pop up. We did not invest the money into that capability.
Would you be okay to talk to people from TriState?
Sure, I'll talk to anybody.
Would you offer a guess why investor-owned utilities wouldn't follow your model? And do you have a rate for geo customers different from non-geo customers?
Okay, I'm gonna answer the part B to that first. And yes, we do have a rate for geothermal, even though we are charging that new geo guy a $25 increase in his customer charge. The kilowatt hour rate is lower. So after about 1,000 kilowatt hours, then overall his rate's still going to be lower, even with the loop adder built in. The first part of that question, say it again, please.
Would you offer a guess why investor-owned utilities wouldn't follow your model?
Yes, I can tell you exactly why they don't follow our model. And it has nothing to do with them being stingy or anything like that. It has everything to do with the fact that they serve 60 to 75 members per mile of line, and we serve 4. So let's say they've got and their mile of line costs exactly the same amount as our mile of line to build. So let's say they've got $40,000 mile of 3-phase line out there, and they've got 60 customers on it, and they charge those 60 customers just a little old $20 a month customer charge. Okay, we've got the same $40,000 mile that's got 4 customers on it. Well, actually, let's go with 12 since 4 per phase. So 12, if we charge them $20, how close is that to the investor-owned income recovery? Not even close. It's a quarter of it. So that is why they don't have the overwhelming need to reduce cost of operation that co-ops do. It's much easier for them to be profitable because they have so many billing agents out there that we don't have.
What has been Western Farmers' role in support of your program?
It was very, very good in the first 3 years, and in the last 5 years, it's been non-existent. You can quote me on that too if you want to.
What regulatory/permitting issues have you encountered, and how are regulations and standards governed locally in Oklahoma by county, town, or city?
Well, that might be a question that's better suited for Darren, but the Oklahoma Water Resources Board, way back in the beginning, had questions. Department of Environmental Quality had questions, but once we went through the process of explaining, the impact environmentally on the loop, even with the glycol antifreeze in it and so forth and so on, they backed off of it, and there are no regulations. The only ones that now that we would face might be within the cities. If they have certain ordinances, there's almost all of them require some kind of permit to drill, but so far we don't have a single city limits, including Oklahoma City, that has deterred us from installations of loops.
All right, and as far as I can tell, we've got one more question left, and that is, has any consideration been given to geosystems in commercial buildings? If not, why not?
Oh, absolutely. And all of the ones that we have access to have almost all gone with geothermal. We just, unfortunately, our cooperative is largely agricultural to the west, bedroom community to the east, and oil and gas. That's the prominent large power user. We have a couple of schools and hospitals, things of that nature, small ones that we serve that mostly have geo now. But as we have one that pops up, absolutely, we're all over it to put geo in.
Okay, Darren, I believe that's all the questions that we have. I didn't know if you were gonna wrap this up.
Thanks, Sally. Yeah, if there's no more questions, we will just go ahead and close it out. Boyd, thank you so much again for taking your time to present to us great information. Again, if there's some questions that you didn't get out there that you would like to ask Boyd, or if there's any for IGSHPA, info@igshpa.org, and we'll get those answered. Have a good rest of your day, everybody, and be sure
Darren?
June 9th, is that right, Sally? June 9th, next presentation, next town hall?
That's correct.
Okay, we'll see you guys all then.